Release Insecurity, Secrets of the Ancient Mystics. Introduction. The Veil of Insecurity, Recognizing Illusion as the First Step. Insecurity is, at its core, a shadow, an ephemeral veil cast over the brilliance of our true selves, obscuring the radiant essence of who we are. This veil is a pervasive illusion, one that tricks the mind into adopting a fragmented identity, alienated from the deep, divine roots of our being. It is a fabric woven from doubts, societal expectations, and ingrained fears, shielding us from the core of our inner strength. The sages of ancient wisdom, Gnostics, Rosicrucians, and the mystics who dwelt at the edge of known realms, understood this illusion, seeing it as a layer of unreality that could be peeled back to reveal a boundless self, secure and eternal. They regarded insecurity not as a flaw but as a challenge, a means of growth and self-realization meant to awaken the seeker to the power resting dormant within. As we embark upon this journey to dismantle the illusion of insecurity, we find that it is not merely an emotional obstacle, but a test, a means of nudging the soul towards self-realization. To the unawakened mind, insecurity seems a barrier, but to the mystic, it is a doorway. Gnostic and Hermetic teachings reveal that our belief in limitations stems from a mistaken separation from the divine source within. The mystic, through a disciplined and courageous pursuit, tears down this illusion by revealing that the self is, and always has been, complete. Ancient traditions speak of this as the moment when the veil lifts, allowing the initiate to peer into the divine mirror and recognize their reflection as an undistorted, infinite self. This reflection isn't perfect in the way the world measures perfection. Rather, it's a self so expansive that perfection itself becomes irrelevant. Understanding insecurity as an illusion, as a test of our alignment with truth, is only the first step. From this standpoint, insecurity begins to reveal its hidden face, a teacher disguised as a tormentor. Every pang of self-doubt, every anxious comparison, and every fear of inadequacy are signals, gently, sometimes forcefully, urging us to turn inward, to rediscover the forgotten wholeness within. Insecurity, then, is no longer a weight that drags us down but a lever that we can use to lift ourselves. This journey inward, however, requires that we stand apart from the illusions crafted by societal expectations and transient opinions, for they are often the silent architects of our insecurities. Through discernment, the mystic learns to differentiate between the false promises of the world and the immutable truth within. This book is not a journey toward acquiring self-worth, as though it were a possession one could own or lose, but a journey back to a self-worth that is intrinsic and undeniable. In the same way that an ocean does not require validation of its depth, the self does not require approval of its worth. Ancient traditions remind us that our insecurities stem from a disconnection, a forgetting of this innate value. The teachings of the Rosicrucians, Gnostics, and other mystics echo a timeless truth. We are not separate from the divine. We are not isolated fragments but parts of an indivisible whole. Recognizing this interconnectedness is the key to dissolving the illusion of insecurity, for insecurity thrives in separation but fades in unity. Insecurity, seen through the lens of mysticism, becomes a passageway to inner transformation, one that allows us to shed layers of fear and self-doubt until we stand in alignment with our higher, eternal self. Each chapter in this book will serve as a step on this path, guiding the reader through layers of reflection, insight, and ancient wisdom. By journey's end, we will have encountered the roots of insecurity, dismantled its illusions, and come to embody an unshakable sense of worth, one that is not contingent upon anything external, but instead arises naturally from our divine nature. Before we dive into this transformative audiobook, hit like and subscribe if you're ready to learn something truly powerful. Your support helps bring more audiobooks like this to the channel. Thanks for being with us. Chapter 1. Foundations of Self-Identity, Rediscovering the True Self. The quest for self-identity is one of the most profound journeys one can undertake, yet it is also one fraught with confusion and misdirection. In a world filled with labels, roles, and expectations, the question of who we truly are often becomes muddied by 1,000 external influences. We adopt identities, some of which we may even believe in wholeheartedly, that are often little more than projections of societal norms or inherited expectations. Ancient mystics, however, saw identity as something far deeper, something far removed from the superficial roles we assume in our daily lives. To the Gnostics, identity was not found in one's occupation, appearance, or social standing. Instead, it was rooted in an eternal essence, a true self, untouched by the transient concerns of this world. This deeper self is the soul's origin, the indestructible core that each of us carries, awaiting recognition beneath layers of illusion. The idea of the fall in Gnostic and mystical traditions speaks directly to the journey of forgetting this true self. In ancient texts, the fall is not only a literal descent but a symbolic one, representing humanity's collective shift from spiritual unity to individual ego and identity. In the mythic accounts, this fall into separation from divine awareness was the birth of an outer self, a false identity built upon fears, desires, and the desire for validation. To the mystics, rediscovering the true self is an act of remembrance, a reawakening to a reality that has never ceased to exist. The layers of insecurity and self-doubt that we encounter are remnants of this forgetfulness, the residue of a mind that has come to identify more with its temporary aspects than with its eternal core. At the heart of this rediscovery is the realization that our perception of self is a choice, one we must actively make to realign with our true essence. Insecurity often takes root in the mind's tendency to drift toward self-comparison, judgment, and criticism, all reflections of an externalized sense of identity. Yet, when we shift our awareness inward, we uncover a stillness, a core that exists beyond all judgments. Ancient wisdom traditions, such as those of the Rosicrucians and Gnostics, teach that our true self cannot be defined by words or confined by labels. It is an essence, a spark of the divine itself. To rediscover this essence, one must practice seeing beyond the illusions of form, beyond the transient qualities we associate with personality or achievement, and instead dwell in the silent, knowing presence within. This inner alignment demands a courageous encounter with insecurity. In facing these doubts head-on, we begin to see them not as indications of weakness but as opportunities to transcend limiting beliefs about ourselves. The teachings of the ancient mystics remind us that every layer of doubt peeled away brings us closer to the truth of who we are. In the Gnostic tradition, it is said that ignorance is the root of all suffering, and so, too, insecurity arises from a place of ignorance, a misalignment with the truth of our essence. When we realize that we are not our fears or limitations, these insecurities lose their grip. They become shadows cast by an old self that no longer holds relevance, and as we stand in our true essence, we find that these shadows are dissipated by the light of self-awareness. Rediscovering the true self is not a one-time revelation. It is a continuous, unfolding journey. Each day brings new challenges, each moment an opportunity to remember or to forget. This cyclical process of remembering and forgetting is often seen as a spiral, a sacred symbol in mystical teachings, representing the soul's journey through time, eternally moving both outward and inward, deepening its understanding of self. At the center of this spiral lies the unwavering truth of our being. Each act of self-recognition, each time we choose our true self over the transient illusions, we move closer to that center, to the heart of our essence. In this way, the journey to self-identity becomes both our return to innocence and our initiation into wisdom, a blending of the pure and the profound. As we cultivate this understanding of self-identity, we find that liberation lies not in erasing insecurities, but in seeing them for what they truly are, temporary ripples on the surface of a vast, still ocean. The mystics of old taught that the self, when understood from its deepest level, is beyond dualities, beyond judgments of good or bad, strong or weak. It is a beingness that simply is. And in resting within this state, we are freed from the constant need for validation or approval, for we recognize that our worth is inherent. It does not require any external affirmation. It is as natural and self-evident as the existence of light. Thus, rediscovering our true self becomes an act of liberation, freeing us from the compulsions of fear and comparison, aligning us with an unshakable sense of wholeness that is grounded in the eternal. Chapter 2: The Sacred Mirror, the Role of Relationships in Self-Perception. In the realm of esoteric teachings, relationships are viewed as sacred mirrors, reflecting back to us the often hidden aspects of our inner world. Relationships with others, whether intimate, familial, or even fleeting, provide glimpses into our true selves, illuminating qualities, desires, fears, and insecurities that might otherwise remain hidden. Ancient mystical traditions understood that the people we attract into our lives are not random. They are drawn to us by the energies we radiate, by the unseen patterns of our thoughts and emotions. In this way, each relationship serves as a portal, a gateway into self-awareness, reflecting both the light and shadow of our inner being. The Gnostics and Hermetics taught that in these reflections, we may see our divine nature just as readily as we see our fears and limitations. To gaze into these mirrors is to step closer to self-knowledge, acknowledging that each encounter is a lesson offered to deepen our understanding. Yet, many of us are inclined to look outward rather than inward, allowing relationships to define our worth or relying on the perceptions of others to validate us. When we view relationships in this way, we become susceptible to the illusion that our self-worth depends on external approval. This dependency creates a cycle of seeking validation outside of ourselves, reinforcing a sense of inadequacy that can only be remedied from within. To the mystics, this trap of external validation is seen as a hindrance to true self-realization. The Hermetic principle of mentalism, the all is mind, reveals that the thoughts and perceptions we hold about ourselves shape our reality, and that what we see in others is merely a reflection of our own mind. Recognizing this truth empowers us to reclaim control over our self-perception, allowing relationships to serve as opportunities for growth rather than measures of worth. As we begin to see relationships as mirrors, we embark on a path of self-acceptance, learning to embrace the parts of ourselves that we might otherwise reject or project onto others. Ancient teachings remind us that the aspects of others that provoke strong reactions within us often point to qualities we have not yet acknowledged or accepted within ourselves. For instance, if we find ourselves frequently irritated by another's behavior, it may reveal a similar trait or fear within us. This reflection offers an invitation to integrate these traits with compassion, transforming relationships into pathways toward inner harmony. In accepting these hidden parts, we move closer to self-acceptance, dissolving the barriers between our conscious and unconscious selves. This path of self-acceptance transforms relationships from sources of contention into teachers of compassion and patience. Mystical teachings tell us that the unity we seek within our own soul must extend outward, encompassing others as well. In the Rosicrucian tradition, all relationships are viewed as opportunities to practice divine love, an unconditional acceptance of oneself and others. As we embrace this view, we begin to understand that others are not separate from us. They are reflections of our own spirit, facets of a shared consciousness. In this way, relationships become a journey not toward control or validation but toward unity. Through this unity, we transcend the limitations of ego and insecurity, discovering a profound interconnectedness that dissolves the illusion of separation. Thus, relationships, seen through the lens of mystical wisdom, become tools of liberation rather than entrapment. By shifting from dependency on others' perceptions to a stance of self-acceptance, we free ourselves from the limitations of judgment and expectation. We learn to carry within ourselves a wholeness that no external approval can enhance or diminish. The sacred mirror of relationships invites us to release the need for external validation and cultivate an unwavering sense of inner value, one that remains untouched by the opinions of others. In this state, relationships become what they were always meant to be, a communion of souls reflecting the divine nature within each other, a shared journey toward the ultimate truth of unity and love. Chapter 3. Illusions of Comparison. Realizing Individuality in a Competitive World. In the wisdom of the mystics, comparison is often seen as a grand illusion, a web woven by the mind to keep us bound within the limited scope of individual perception. To compare oneself with others is to dilute one's uniqueness and to overlook the intricate tapestry of one's own journey. Within esoteric thought, every soul is considered a distinct spark of the divine, carrying a unique essence that contributes to the wholeness of creation. When we measure ourselves against others, we fall into the illusion of separateness, a state where we perceive ourselves as incomplete or lacking. The ancient teachings remind us that each person is like a note in a vast symphony, resonant in its own frequency, yet harmoniously contributing to the whole. Recognizing this unity while honoring our individuality is key to transcending the illusions born of comparison. This journey towards self-realization begins with understanding that comparison is a product of dualistic thinking, the tendency to perceive ourselves in contrast to others. In the teachings of non-dualism, prominent in both Gnostic and Hermetic traditions, we learn that everything in existence is interconnected, an extension of a single, infinite consciousness. By viewing the world through this lens, we shift from the limited perspective of us versus them, to a more expansive awareness of unity. This shift allows us to see that our worth is not determined by comparison but by our intrinsic connection to this universal consciousness. In realizing this, we move beyond the superficial differences that separate us, coming into a state of acceptance of ourselves and others. Embracing the path of non-duality invites us to release the constant striving for external validation, the need to be better or more successful than others. Such striving, while deeply ingrained in societal structures, often leads us further away from our authentic selves. The mystics understood that true contentment is found not in surpassing others but in fulfilling one's own unique potential. In a competitive world, this approach may seem counterintuitive, yet it is precisely this focus on inner growth that unlocks true fulfillment. By aligning our actions with our own values, rather than society's shifting expectations, we cultivate a sense of self-worth that remains steady, unshaken by the accomplishments or judgments of others. To rediscover our authentic value, we must turn inward, seeking affirmation not from the world around us but from the quiet depths within. Esoteric wisdom teaches that the answers to our deepest questions are already held within our own consciousness, waiting to be unveiled. This concept is found in Hermeticism, which posits that all is mind, suggesting that the universe is a mental construct in which each individual plays an essential, irreplaceable role. The unique experiences, talents, and insights that each person brings forth are invaluable, precisely because they cannot be replicated by anyone else. When we shift our focus from comparing to appreciating our distinctiveness, we embrace our role in the greater order of existence, recognizing that every individual has something singular to contribute. In releasing the need for comparison, we step into a space of self-acceptance where we can appreciate the uniqueness of others without feeling diminished. Each person we encounter becomes a reflection of the limitless potential within humanity, a reminder of the vast diversity that makes life rich and multidimensional. This shift in perspective allows us to admire others' achievements and qualities as facets of the divine, without questioning our own worth. In this state, we find that our relationships become less about competition and more about mutual appreciation, as we each pursue our own paths with integrity and joy. This freedom from comparison unlocks a new level of personal power, a power rooted not in superiority or inferiority, but in the acceptance of one's own divine essence. In the end, the mystic's path teaches us that individuality and unity are not contradictory but complementary. By honoring our own unique essence while embracing the oneness of all, we transcend the illusion of comparison and step into a place of wholeness. In this state, we no longer feel compelled to measure our worth against others, for we understand that our journey is our own. Our purpose lies not in comparison but in the fulfillment of our highest potential, in embodying the truth of who we are. It is within this self-recognition that we find peace, liberated from the endless pursuit of external validation, grounded in the knowing that we are enough as we are, a unique and irreplaceable part of the divine whole. Chapter 4. The Core of Insecurity, Excavating and Transforming Inner Beliefs. At the core of every insecurity lies a set of beliefs, often silent, ingrained, and unnoticed, yet profoundly powerful. These beliefs are the seeds from which self-doubt and fear grow, casting shadows over our inner world and obscuring the truth of our boundless potential. In ancient mysticism, beliefs are seen as the building blocks of our reality, a web of thought forms woven together to shape our experience. Each belief has a frequency, a resonance that attracts and shapes our outer experiences, confirming itself through the lens of our perception. By examining and transforming these inner beliefs, we engage in a process of spiritual alchemy, transmuting the lead of doubt into the gold of self-awareness. It is through this journey that we begin to see ourselves as we truly are, divine beings, unbound by the illusions of limitation. Insecurity often takes root in early experiences, where beliefs are formed in response to external influences. Perhaps a single word, a moment of rejection, or a repetitive message from the world around us created a belief that lingered, shaping our self-concept. These beliefs, like silent companions, remain with us into adulthood, coloring our perceptions and reinforcing themselves through our thoughts, actions, and responses. The mystics and sages understood that to transform one's life, one must first identify and shift these core beliefs. By illuminating these inner narratives, we strip away layers of illusion and approach the self with renewed clarity. In doing so, we access a deeper understanding of our inherent worth, grounded not in transient validation but in the timeless wisdom of our being. The process of transmuting beliefs is central to esoteric traditions, which view each limiting belief as a form of spiritual lead, heavy and dense, yet holding the potential for transformation. In the practice of inner alchemy, we are invited to confront these beliefs, not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. The alchemist's path is one of embracing all aspects of the self, recognizing that even our fears and doubts serve as fuel for our evolution. By bringing awareness to these beliefs, we dissolve their power, transmuting fear into wisdom and doubt into understanding. This path requires patience, as the transformation of deeply rooted beliefs is a gradual, yet profoundly liberating process. In the pursuit of self-mastery, ancient teachings urge us to replace outdated beliefs with truths that resonate with our higher nature. These new beliefs act as a support system, aligning our thoughts, actions, and emotions with our inner divinity. The Rosicrucians and Gnostics spoke of a truth that lies beyond the veil of perception, a state of knowing that transcends the illusions of limitation and separation. By choosing beliefs that reflect this higher truth, we cultivate a foundation of strength and resilience, grounded in the awareness of our spiritual essence. In this space, insecurity loses its grip, for we are no longer defined by the opinions of others or the passing judgments of the world. Instead, we stand firm in our own knowing, supported by a foundation built from within. The journey of excavating and transforming inner beliefs is a continuous unfolding, a lifelong commitment to uncovering deeper layers of self-awareness. Each time we confront a limiting belief, we peel back a layer of the self, revealing the divine spark that lies beneath. In this way, the work of inner transformation becomes a sacred practice, a ritual of returning to one's true nature. And as we dismantle the structures of insecurity and doubt, we create space for a new vision of ourselves, one that is aligned with our highest potential and reflective of our divine origin. This is the gift of spiritual alchemy, a process that not only heals but also elevates, guiding us to embody the truth of who we are in every thought, word, and action. Chapter 5. The Power of Inner Silence, Mastering the Mind's Self-Talk. The world outside is seldom silent. It hums with activity, demands, and the ceaseless flow of information. Yet, in the stillness within lies the gateway to true wisdom, a place where the noise of self-doubt can dissolve, and the deeper truths of the self can emerge. Inner silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is the space where our mind's constant chatter fades, giving rise to a purer voice, the voice of our higher self. For the mystics and sages who sought knowledge of the divine, silence was the first step on the path to mastery. Silence cultivates clarity, and clarity is the lens through which we perceive our true nature, untouched by insecurity and free from the shadows cast by doubt. By learning to access this inner silence, we gain mastery over the mind's self-talk, transforming it from an unsteady current of fear into a wellspring of strength. In the ancient traditions, silence was revered as a tool for self-illumination, a method of accessing the hidden chambers of consciousness. It is within silence that the noise of our habitual thoughts can be heard for what it is, a passing current, a layer of surface thinking that has little to do with the truth of who we are. Just as a lake settles into a mirror-like stillness when the winds calm, so too does our mind reveal its depths when we practice silence. In these depths lies a quiet knowing, a place untouched by the outer world's demands and judgments. It is a space of inherent worth, a core unshaken by the fluctuations of the mind or the opinions of others. This silence is not emptiness but fullness. It is rich with presence, with the essence of our being, connecting us to something eternal and unwavering. Self-talk is the internal dialogue that shapes our beliefs, informs our decisions, and defines our self-perception. When this dialogue is left unchecked, it can spiral into self-doubt, creating an environment where insecurity thrives. But when we bring awareness to our self-talk, we reclaim authority over our mental landscape. Gnostic and mystical traditions teach the importance of being vigilant with our thoughts, encouraging us to watch them like a hawk watches the horizon. By observing our inner dialogue without judgment, we begin to see the patterns that have long governed our experience. We notice the voices of doubt, the whispers of fear, and we realize that they are not us. They are echoes of past beliefs, patterns that can be redefined. Reclaiming authority over the mind's self-talk is an act of spiritual discipline, a practice that requires both awareness and compassion. The Rosicrucians taught that one's internal dialogue should be as pure as one's intentions. Through intentional self-talk, we become our own guides, our own mentors, nurturing thoughts that reflect our true potential. When we consciously shape our inner dialogue, we reinforce our connection to the higher self, cultivating a sense of self that is grounded in wisdom and truth rather than fleeting emotions. In moments when doubt arises, this cultivated voice of the higher self acts as a stabilizing force, reminding us of our inherent strength and guiding us back to a place of inner balance. As we deepen our practice of silence, we develop a new relationship with our thoughts, seeing them as tools rather than truths. In this space of inner stillness, self-talk becomes a reflection of self-love, a gentle encouragement that comes from within, unshaken by external influences. Through silence, we anchor ourselves in the present, free from the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future. This stillness allows us to experience ourselves as we truly are, whole, complete, and enough. Each time we return to this place of inner silence, we reaffirm our commitment to seeing beyond the illusions of insecurity, finding strength in the quiet knowing that resides at the core of our being. In this way, silence becomes not only a tool but a sanctuary, a sacred space where we reconnect with our highest self, beyond the grasp of self-doubt. Chapter 6. The Fire of Self-Confidence, Igniting Inner Light as a Spiritual Practice. True self-confidence is not a fleeting feeling dependent on external validation, nor is it a display of ego that masks inner insecurity. It is a radiance, an inner light that emanates from a deep, authentic connection to one's higher self. This confidence is born from alignment with one's true nature, a state of being that needs no external reinforcement to shine. Mystical traditions and Hermetic teachings tell us that confidence is akin to an internal fire, a divine spark, continuously fueled by the knowledge of our own worth and purpose. This chapter explores how to cultivate that inner light, understanding self-confidence as a natural state rather than a condition that must be earned or proven. Hermeticism often describes self-confidence as a sacred flame within, an energy connected to the essence of our spirit. The Rosicrucians taught that this flame is hidden within each of us, waiting to be ignited through self-discovery and inner work. When we tend to this inner light, we become rooted in a self-assurance that does not waver in the face of challenges. We learn that true confidence is the expression of the soul's purpose, manifesting in actions, words, and thoughts that are in alignment with our higher nature. This flame, once ignited, illuminates our path, giving us the clarity and strength to move forward regardless of external circumstances. Like an eternal lamp within, it does not dim with others' opinions or the temporary setbacks of life. To cultivate this self-confidence, we must confront and dispel the shadows of doubt that have lingered in our consciousness. The mystics believed that these shadows are illusions, mistaken identities we have accepted as real. Just as the sun remains unaffected by passing clouds, our inner light remains unaltered by transient doubts and fears. Yet, to reach the full strength of this light, we must clear away these shadows through understanding, forgiveness, and letting go of old beliefs. Self-confidence is not about eliminating all insecurities but about choosing to stand in our own light, undeterred by the passing clouds of uncertainty. As we embrace this perspective, confidence arises not as something we possess but as something we become. Living with this confidence means embodying our inner truth, acting from a place of integrity, and allowing our unique expression to flow naturally. The Hermetic principle of vibration reminds us that everything in existence is energy in motion, including our thoughts and intentions. When we are aligned with our higher self, our actions resonate with authenticity, creating a natural confidence that others can feel. This form of confidence does not need to prove itself. It is simply a state of being that radiates from within. Others are drawn to this authenticity because it reflects a quality of inner freedom, a liberation from the need to perform or seek approval. It is a rare and powerful quality, for it speaks to the truth of who we are beyond the layers of conditioning. In embodying this self-confidence, we learn to walk with the dignity of our inner light. This path is not one of perfection but of presence, where we meet each moment with clarity and courage. We come to realize that our value does not fluctuate based on circumstances. It remains steady as long as we remain true to ourselves. This self-assuredness opens doors to possibilities that were once obscured by self-doubt. Each step forward strengthens our connection to this inner light, reinforcing our commitment to living from a place of wholeness and truth. In moments of challenge, we draw from this light, knowing that it is inexhaustible, an endless source of guidance and strength. Confidence becomes a spiritual practice, an act of devotion to the truth of who we are, illuminating our journey toward greater wisdom and fulfillment. Chapter 7. Alchemy of Self-Worth, Transforming Insecurity into Resilience. In the world of esoteric knowledge, alchemy represents the ancient art of transformation, the science of turning base materials into gold. Yet, beyond the literal interpretation, alchemy is deeply symbolic, pointing to the inner process of transforming our most challenging states, fear, doubt, and insecurity, into resilience, wisdom, and self-worth. Just as the alchemist engages in meticulous work to transmute metals, we engage in the inner work of refining our sense of self, using insecurity as the raw material from which inner strength is born. This process of inner alchemy requires patience, insight, and the willingness to face ourselves without judgment, turning what we may perceive as flaws into elements of profound power. The alchemist's journey begins with a willingness to see insecurity not as a flaw but as an invitation, a call to examine the foundations of our self-worth. According to Hermetic teachings, all experiences, both light and dark, serve a purpose in the grand tapestry of existence, shaping us into our fullest potential. Insecurity is merely an energy, neither good nor bad, which we can learn to mold and direct. When we confront it consciously, insecurity reveals itself as a catalyst for growth, challenging us to identify the beliefs that lie beneath the surface. These beliefs often come from societal expectations, past wounds, or ingrained habits of comparison, each one masking the inner gold waiting to be uncovered. In alchemical transformation, there are phases of purification, breakdown, and renewal, paralleling the process of dissolving the beliefs that sustain insecurity and rebuilding self-worth on a stable foundation. The Rosicrucians spoke of this as a journey of refinement, where one removes the dross of self-doubt to reveal the inherent worth that lies beneath. The first step is to observe our thoughts and patterns with detachment, noticing when insecurity arises and the stories it tells. Instead of reacting or accepting these narratives as truth, we practice viewing them as malleable constructs, ripe for transformation. Through this practice, we shift from seeing insecurity as an identity to recognizing it as a temporary state that can be transmuted. True self-worth is not dependent on external validation or the opinions of others. It is an internal state grounded in self-awareness and acceptance. In the words of the alchemists, this stage represents the rebirth of the self, where the ashes of past doubts give rise to an inner flame of self-assurance. The Gnostics believed that self-knowledge is the key to liberation, and in this sense, cultivating self-worth is about embracing our inherent value, independent of external achievements or failures. Each time we choose to affirm our worth from within, we fortify our inner foundation, making it increasingly resilient to life's uncertainties. Over time, this resilience grows into an unshakable knowing, an inner sanctuary of self-worth that cannot be taken away. Living with this alchemical self-worth is akin to carrying an inner compass, a sense of direction that remains steady amid life's shifts. Just as gold does not tarnish or lose value with time, so too does our sense of self-worth remain constant, radiating from within. This shift frees us from the cycles of insecurity and doubt, allowing us to move through the world with grace and confidence. We come to realize that we are our own alchemists, continuously refining, renewing, and transmuting our experience into wisdom and strength. Each encounter with insecurity becomes another step in this journey, a reminder of the potential to transform. And in this way, we embody the true essence of alchemy, turning the base experiences of human vulnerability into the precious gold of inner resilience. Chapter 8. Releasing External Validation, a Path to Internal Liberation. In the silent corridors of ancient wisdom, seekers learned that true power lies not in the approval or validation of others but in a profound connection with their inner self. Through mystical teachings, the sages of old whispered of a liberation that comes only when one releases the need for external validation, a dependence that binds the soul to fleeting, temporary sources of worth. This dependence, they taught, is akin to building castles on sand, structures that seem firm in moments of praise yet quickly crumble in times of criticism or neglect. Real self-worth, however, is like a fortress built upon a rock, unwavering and self-sustaining, shielded from the changing tides of external perception. True liberation, then, begins with severing the invisible chains that link our self-esteem to others' approval and reclaiming the authority over our self-worth. The allure of external validation is subtle, often woven into our earliest social interactions, where approval and acceptance formed the foundations of belonging. Through the lens of esoteric teachings, this longing for validation is understood as the soul's search for recognition, yet misdirected outward rather than inward. In Gnostic thought, the divine spark within each of us is already whole, already worthy, carrying the signature of our inner truth. When we seek validation outside ourselves, we ignore this truth, placing our value in the hands of others who do not hold the same intimate understanding of our essence. In this way, the dependency on external validation dims the recognition of our inner divinity, clouding the clarity with which we perceive our worth. The ancient mystics remind us that every soul's journey is unique, that no two paths are the same, and thus, no external measure can accurately judge the worth of our experience. By continually seeking validation from the outside world, we inadvertently compare our path to those around us, measuring our worth by a standard that may not align with our true purpose. The Rosicrucians taught that comparison weakens the spirit, diverting focus from inner growth to external appearances. When we relinquish the need for validation, we free ourselves from this cycle of comparison, returning to the sanctuary of inner alignment where our worth is self-defined. In this state, we cultivate a confidence that is independent of recognition and approval, a state of being that radiates from the soul's alignment with its unique path. To live liberated from external validation is to inhabit a state of inner acceptance so complete that it transcends praise and blame alike. This inner acceptance, as taught in many mystical traditions, is not about arrogance or disregard for others but about a gentle and unshakable assurance in one's intrinsic value. When we anchor our worth within, the opinions of others lose their power to sway our sense of self. Instead of being reactive to judgments or accolades, we observe them with detachment, recognizing that they are reflections of others' perceptions rather than truths about our essence. This is the true freedom of self-acceptance, an openness to life that welcomes feedback without letting it define us. The path to releasing external validation requires dedication, for it asks us to confront the fears that arise when we withdraw from familiar sources of approval. Yet, as we journey through this inner work, we find ourselves growing stronger, more resilient, and deeply attuned to our inner voice. Each step away from external validation and toward self-reliance is a step toward liberation, where we reclaim the authority over our worth and live from a place of profound inner peace. We become our own source of approval, our own measure of success, and our own anchor amid the changing tides of life. In this space of self-liberation, we discover that our true worth was never in the hands of others. It was, and always will be, a reflection of the divine essence within. Chapter 9. Language of the Mind, Transforming Inner Dialogue into Self-Belief. In the arcane language of the mind, thoughts act as whispers of self-definition, weaving our perception and shaping our experience of reality. The sages of old understood that the words we speak to ourselves carry profound power, vibrating with an energy that influences every level of our being. Inner dialogue is not mere mental noise. It is a sacred instrument through which the self is continuously molded, a silent language that guides us toward either limitation or liberation. To master this language is to unlock the doorway to self-belief, where words become the fertile ground from which authentic self-worth emerges. As we transform our inner dialogue, we reclaim our innate power to create an identity rooted in truth rather than illusion, courage rather than doubt. The ancient mystics often taught that inner words create thought forms, energetic patterns that resonate through the mental and emotional planes. According to Gnostic and Hermetic teachings, Every thought form we generate influences not only our mind but also the subtle energy fields around us. Negative self-talk, phrases that diminish, doubt, or criticize, acts as seeds of limitation, taking root within our psyche and manifesting as barriers to growth. Yet, when we consciously shape our inner dialogue with words that affirm and uplift, we cultivate an inner landscape where self-belief can flourish. In this way, our inner language becomes a sacred ritual, a practice of aligning the mind with the truths of our highest self. Shifting from critical to constructive self-talk requires us to observe our inner voice with the detachment of a witness, recognizing it as a pattern of thought rather than an absolute reality. Here, the teachings of Rosicrucianism offer valuable guidance, reminding us to approach our minds as a temple that we are entrusted to tend with care. When we observe a pattern of negativity or doubt within this temple, we do not meet it with judgment but with gentle redirection, consciously choosing words that align with our deeper truths. Through this practice, we begin to identify as the curator of our thoughts rather than their captive, learning that our inner dialogue is malleable and that we hold the authority to reshape it toward self-belief and strength. As we refine our inner language, we find that each word carries an energy that influences not only our thoughts but our emotions, decisions, and actions. Just as a river carves its path through stone over time, our inner words carve pathways within our consciousness, forming the bedrock of our beliefs about who we are and what we are capable of achieving. The words, "I am," when followed by affirmations of strength, love, and wisdom, build a foundation of self-belief that endures. As Gnostic wisdom suggests, we must speak to ourselves as we would to the divine spark within, with reverence and care, for these words are the framework of our reality. In this way, we become the architect of our identity, choosing words that reflect our inherent worth and limitless potential. Through the conscious transformation of inner dialogue, we unlock a path to self-belief that is unwavering, grounded in the knowledge that we are, indeed, enough. This belief does not rest on the fragile surface of external approval but on the solid foundation of self-respect cultivated through thoughtful language. As we master the sacred language of the mind, we discover an inner harmony that is resilient to the fluctuations of life, an inner sanctuary where the voice of self-doubt no longer holds sway. We find ourselves speaking to our deepest self with the words of a sage, acknowledging our strength and nurturing our worth. In this state of aligned inner dialogue, we transcend the limitations of self-criticism and embrace the unshakable truth of our divine nature. Chapter 10. The Mystic's Path of Self-Realization, Embodying Your Highest Self. To embark on the mystic's path is to approach life as an unfolding journey toward self-realization, where the mundane and the sacred intertwine, illuminating the layers of truth within us. The mystic does not seek external validation nor rely on the opinions of others to shape their understanding of self. Instead, they turn inward, finding guidance in the depths of their inner world. This path is one of embracing both light and shadow, of recognizing that the highest self is not a destination but a state of being that we learn to embody through patience, resilience, and unwavering commitment to inner truth. To walk this path is to nurture qualities that reflect our soul's true nature, qualities that empower us to stand firmly in who we are, anchored in a self-belief that is as enduring as it is transformative. The essence of self-realization lies in learning to live in alignment with our inner truth, a process that begins with understanding our inherent uniqueness. Rosicrucian teachings often describe this uniqueness as our soul's signature, an intrinsic pattern that expresses itself through our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Unlike fleeting identities shaped by societal roles, this inner signature is timeless, a constant guide that, when recognized, directs us toward authentic expression. To embody our highest self is to acknowledge this signature and allow it to shape our experiences. Through introspection, we come to realize that true fulfillment arises not from conforming to external expectations but from honoring this unique essence and allowing it to guide our path. Living in alignment with our inner truth is not always an easy task. It requires an unyielding commitment to self-awareness and self-acceptance. The mystic understands that embracing their highest self involves acknowledging both their strengths and vulnerabilities, seeing them as complementary aspects of a unified whole. This acceptance becomes the foundation of a self-realization that is free from the burdens of judgment or comparison. The wisdom of Hermetic and Gnostic traditions encourages us to view each part of ourselves with compassion, for it is in accepting our entirety that we access our full potential. When we live from this space of acceptance, our presence reflects an inner strength that no external force can diminish. We walk through life with a sense of purpose and clarity, no longer swayed by the changing tides of circumstance. The path of self-realization also calls for cultivating qualities of patience, inner clarity, and a steadfast belief in our worth. Patience is essential, for the journey towards self-realization is lifelong, requiring a continual unfolding of understanding and awareness. Inner clarity, meanwhile, allows us to discern between the true self and the illusions imposed by ego or external influence. And self-belief, an unshakable confidence in our inherent worth, empowers us to stand firm in our truth, regardless of the challenges we face. These qualities form the foundation of a self-realized life, where our identity is no longer dictated by external validations but arises from an unwavering connection to our deepest self. Ultimately, to embody the highest self is to become a living temple of wisdom, a place where the light of the soul shines clearly, unclouded by doubts or fears. This path is not about achieving a state of perfection but about cultivating a relationship with the self that honors both our humanity and our divinity. In embracing our highest self, we learn to see life not as a series of obstacles to be overcome but as a continuous process of growth and transformation. We become both the student and the teacher, learning from each experience while sharing the wisdom we uncover along the way. This is the mystic's path, a journey that leads us ever deeper into the truth of who we are, illuminating our lives with the radiance of self-realization. Chapter 11. The Sacred Nature of Self-Love, Accepting Yourself as Sacred. Self-love, in its truest form, is the acceptance of our inherent sacredness. To love oneself is to honor the divine essence that resides within, acknowledging that our very existence is a manifestation of the cosmic will. In ancient mystical traditions, self-love was revered as an essential spiritual practice, not merely an exercise in self-esteem but an acknowledgement of one's soul as an expression of the divine. Gnostic teachings remind us that the path to inner peace and spiritual fulfillment begins with this acceptance, seeing ourselves not as flawed beings in need of constant correction but as sacred vessels capable of profound transformation. When we embrace this perspective, we realize that self-love is not an indulgence but an act of reverence, a recognition of the divine nature within us. This sacred nature, however, often remains hidden beneath layers of doubt, insecurity, and self-criticism. Mystics have long taught that these self-doubts are veils that obscure our inner light, shadows that prevent us from seeing ourselves as we truly are. In the teachings of the Rosicrucians, there is an understanding that the heart, as the seat of self-love, must be purified to reflect the divine within. This purification is not achieved through denial or self-sacrifice but through compassion and understanding, an acceptance of our imperfections as aspects of our humanity. By embracing these parts of ourselves without judgment, we transcend the illusion of separation, recognizing that even our flaws are part of the divine tapestry. The journey to self-love, therefore, is not about becoming something we are not. It is about uncovering the sacredness already within us. To cultivate self-love as a sacred practice, we must build a foundation of self-trust. In mystical traditions, self-trust is seen as the cornerstone of spiritual development, the unwavering belief that we are capable of navigating life's challenges with integrity and grace. When we trust ourselves, we create an inner sanctuary where our soul can thrive, unencumbered by fear or doubt. This trust is not conditional upon external success or validation but arises from the knowledge that our worth is inherent. Gnostic philosophy speaks of this inner trust as a reflection of divine wisdom, a sense of knowing that surpasses intellectual understanding. As we deepen our self-trust, we become grounded in our true nature, unshaken by the opinions or expectations of others. Transcending doubt requires a compassionate relationship with oneself. In the wisdom of ancient mystics, compassion for the self is the highest form of love, a gentle embrace that soothes the soul and calms the mind. To look upon ourselves with compassion is to honor our journey, to recognize that every experience, every lesson, has contributed to our growth. This compassion extends to all aspects of ourselves, the parts that feel broken, the moments of failure, and the fears that arise from within. By cultivating this loving perspective, we dissolve the inner conflicts that cause insecurity and self-doubt, replacing them with a sense of inner peace and acceptance. Compassion becomes the bridge that reconnects us with our sacred nature, allowing us to see ourselves through the eyes of the divine. As we accept ourselves as sacred, we begin to experience a profound shift in our relationship with life. We no longer seek love, worth, or validation from external sources because we recognize these qualities within ourselves. Life itself becomes a reflection of this inner state. Our relationships deepen, our actions become more intentional, and our sense of purpose becomes clear. The ancient teachings remind us that the universe mirrors our inner world. When we see ourselves as sacred, the world responds with reverence. This state of self-love is not static but grows with each moment of acceptance, with each step we take on our spiritual path. By embodying self-love as a sacred practice, we honor not only ourselves but also the divine source from which we originate, creating a life rooted in peace, authenticity, and purpose. Chapter 12. Embracing the unknown, moving forward without fear. To embrace the unknown is to acknowledge the vast mysteries of existence, where each moment unfolds as a doorway to transformation. In the teachings of mystics and sages, there is a profound reverence for the unknown, for it is seen not as a void of chaos but as a wellspring of possibility, a sacred space where the divine meets the human. Fear of the unknown often stems from the mind's attachment to certainty, the desire to control and predict every facet of life. However, the esoteric traditions remind us that true growth and spiritual expansion require surrender, an openness to the unfolding mysteries that lie beyond the edges of our current understanding. In this sacred embrace, we find liberation from the constraints of fear, awakening to a life that is guided by trust rather than apprehension. Embracing the unknown requires courage, a quality revered by mystics as one of the highest virtues. Courage is not the absence of fear but the conscious decision to move forward in spite of it, trusting that the path will reveal itself step by step. In Gnostic teachings, courage is often symbolized as the flame that burns within, a reminder that the light of our inner wisdom is stronger than any darkness that may lie ahead. This inner flame guides us through the shadows of doubt and uncertainty, illuminating the way even when the destination is unclear. When we cultivate courage, we shift from a state of hesitation to one of inspired action, allowing our soul's wisdom to guide us. In embracing the unknown, courage becomes our constant companion, a quiet strength that whispers, "Keep moving forward. There is beauty in the unfolding." As we step into this space of openness, we begin to experience life as a journey rather than a test. In ancient mystical traditions, life is not seen as a series of challenges to be overcome but as an ever-evolving process of self-discovery. Each experience, whether joyous or painful, serves as a teacher, revealing new facets of our inner self. The unknown, then, becomes a canvas upon which we paint our lives, each moment a brushstroke of intention, insight, and growth. By releasing our attachment to specific outcomes, we allow life to flow naturally, guided by the deeper wisdom of our higher self. This shift in perspective transforms the unknown from a source of fear into an invitation to explore, to expand, and to embrace the endless possibilities that lie within. In this embrace, we cultivate a deep sense of trust, not only in ourselves but in the universe itself. Trust, as taught by the mystics, is the foundation of spiritual strength, an inner assurance that everything is unfolding according to a higher order. When we trust in the flow of life, we let go of the need to control, allowing the divine rhythm to guide our actions and decisions. This trust is not blind faith but an inner knowing that arises from our connection to the divine. In trusting the unknown, we align ourselves with the wisdom of the cosmos, becoming co-creators of our reality. We move forward with confidence, not because we know what lies ahead, but because we trust that each step will bring us closer to our highest self. As we release our fear of the unknown, we open ourselves to the fullness of life, experiencing each moment with clarity and presence. In this state of openness, we find that the unknown is not something to be feared but celebrated, a sacred space that holds the potential for growth, wisdom, and transformation. The mystic's path is one of perpetual exploration, a journey that leads ever deeper into the heart of existence. By embracing the unknown, we honor this path, stepping into the vast mystery of life with a spirit of wonder and gratitude. In this final step, we realize that the unknown is not outside of us but within, a reflection of our own boundless potential waiting to be revealed. As we near the conclusion, if you've been enjoying the audiobook, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Drop a comment below and share your biggest takeaway. Conclusion. Stepping into life with unshakable self-worth. As we arrive at the end of this journey, we find ourselves not in a place of finality but at a new beginning. The journey through self-worth, guided by ancient wisdom and spiritual insight, has not been a path of adding to oneself, but of unveiling what has always been present. To walk this path is to peel away layers of illusion and misconception, to shed the burdens of insecurity and fear that once clouded the truth of who we are. In our essence, we are complete, whole, and boundless. Every teaching, every insight shared in these chapters points toward a singular truth: you are enough. This understanding, this deep, unwavering knowing, is the foundation upon which all true self-worth stands. This newfound self-worth is not dependent on external validation, accomplishments, or possessions. It is an intrinsic quality, woven into the fabric of our being. Through the teachings of mystics and sages, we come to see that our worth is rooted in our very existence, in the divine spark within each of us. The journey to unshakable self-worth is a process of inner alignment, a return to our center where the opinions, judgments, and expectations of the external world hold no power over us. In this alignment, we become anchored in a state of peace and clarity, allowing us to engage with life from a place of inner strength and authenticity. We are no longer swayed by the tides of approval or rejection, for we have found a steady foundation within. Embracing this inner foundation, we come to see that life is not a test of our worthiness but an opportunity to express the fullness of who we are. Every challenge, every joy, every moment becomes a chance to step into our highest self, to embody the strength and wisdom that reside within. The mystics teach that life is a dance of the soul, a dynamic flow of experiences that shape and refine us. Through this lens, self-worth is not a fixed state but a living, breathing force that grows as we learn, as we love, and as we embrace the unknown with courage and trust. In this dance, we learn to move with grace, to navigate life's ebbs and flows without losing our center, for we know that our worth is inherent, unshakable, and eternal. As we step forward into the world, we carry with us the wisdom and insight gained from this journey. Our interactions, our choices, our very presence become reflections of our inner truth. We walk with confidence, not because we have all the answers, but because we trust in the unfolding of life and our place within it. This trust, this inner assurance, allows us to live boldly, to pursue our dreams without fear, and to stand tall in the face of adversity. We are no longer defined by the limitations of insecurity or doubt. We are empowered by a deeper understanding of our own divinity. In embracing our self-worth, we claim our place in the world, a place that no one else can fill. The journey of self-worth is a lifelong path, a continuous unfolding of our inner light. There will be moments of challenge, times when we may feel uncertain or lost, but these are simply opportunities to deepen our connection to ourselves, to return once more to the center where our worth resides. The mystic's path is one of eternal growth, an ever-deepening spiral that leads us back to the core of our being. With each step, we peel away another layer, unveiling more of the beauty and strength that lie within. And so, we move forward with unshakable self-worth, embracing life as the grand adventure it is, knowing that we are enough, just as we are, now and always.